It's Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. For those of you who only know me from my WNYC radio show, welcome. This is our season premiere, and hope some of our summer reruns were worth a second look. Tonight we introduce two new series, including Election 2.0, where we will track the presidential campaign as it plays out online. Also debuting tonight, New York from the ground up, where we give voice and video to all New Yorkers, not just the power brokers who usually get all the screen time. But first, here are our online video picks for this week. Number one, Hell No, We Won't Go. Dick Cheney, in 1994, as former defense secretary, reflects on why the first time we went to war in Iraq back in '91, it was somehow a very bad idea to overthrow Saddam Hussein. It's amazing that it took 13 years for this clip to surface for web surfers.
Do you think that the U.S. or UN forces should have moved into Baghdad?
No.
Why not?
Because if we'd gone to Baghdad, we would have been all alone. There wouldn't have been anybody else with us. It would have been a U.S. occupation of Iraq. None of the Arab forces that were willing to fight with us in Kuwait were willing to invade Iraq. Once you got to Iraq and took it over and took down Saddam Hussein's government, then what are you going to put in its place? That's a very volatile part of the world, and if you take down the central government in Iraq, you can easily end up seeing pieces of Iraq fly off. Part of it the Syrians would like to have to the west. Part of eastern Iraq the Iranians would like to claim, fought over for 8 years. In the north, you've got the Kurds, and if the Kurds spin loose and join with the Kurds in Turkey, then you threaten the territorial integrity of Turkey. It's a quagmire if you go that far and try to take over Iraq. The other thing was casualties. Everyone was impressed with the fact that we were able to do our job with as few casualties as we had. But for the 146 Americans killed in action and for their families, it wasn't a cheap war. And the question for the president, in terms of whether or not we went on to Baghdad and took additional casualties in an effort to get Saddam Hussein, was how many additional dead Americans is Saddam worth? And our judgment was not very many, and I think we got it right.
Quagmire? Did he say quagmire? Hey, the guy has a right to change his mind, doesn't he? The new Dick Cheney may be unpopular, but on the web, the 9/11 motivated patriotism that he harnessed is alive and well. In our video pick, number two.
Oh, I'm African American or Caucasian, I'm Asian, excuse me. I'm Vietnamese, Philippine, Korean, or Jamaican. I'm Haitian, Hispanic, y'all. Please be patient. I'm Mexican, Puerto Rican, Venezuelan, Cuban, Dominican, Panamanian, Democrat. I beg your pardon, you see, I partied with the late great Reagan. I'm Republican, Independent, Christian, Catholic, Methodist, Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist, 5%ers, Hindu, Sunni, Muslim, brothers and sisters. We're just Americans. So with that, I say thank you to the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines for preserving my right to live a diverse life and paying the ultimate price for me to be free.
One American fighter in Iraq posting on YouTube as Badass Marine. Now video pick number three, high-tech blowback. If old Fred Thompson thought he was being Mr. New Media by announcing his presidential bid on his website this summer, maybe he didn't realize that in this medium, your critics actually get to talk back.
My friends, I come to you today to tell you that I intend to run for president. I feel deeply that I am doing it for the right reasons. And the right reasons are pretty darn clear to this country boy. I was paid $760,000 to fight for the asbestos companies, not to pay people who got sick. It's that kind of service to America that you can be assured I will bring to the office of president.
Brave New Films produced that retort, the progressive video group, which seems to specialize in attacking conservatives. And their claim does seem to be true, by the way. According to Senate lobbying records cited by the Miami Herald, we looked it up, the British reinsurance firm Equitas paid Thompson more than $760,000 through last year to help limit the amount of asbestos claims it had to pay. Now, to be fair and balanced, we should add that Thompson also represented an abortion rights group, Haitian leader Jean-Bertrand Aristide, 2 Libyan airline bombing suspects, and some members of the savings and loan industry. Can't wait to see who sleeps in the Lincoln bedroom if he becomes president. Video pick number 4, home farming, an ecological experiment. We inaugurate our New York from the Ground Up series, literally on the ground. Here's farmer Manny Howard from Brooklyn.
A farm essentially is, dirt, death, sex. It's what I've discovered. And it takes a lot of work. My name is Manny Howard. I'm writing a story for New York Magazine about urban farming. I've converted the backyard of my Victorian mansion in Brooklyn into a farm over the last 6 months. And the plan is to survive off what I can grow and raise in the 40 by 20 lot, including the garage. So this is the barn. And these were the first great idea. We were gonna breed rabbits. That's the buck. And these are the two does. But the does won't let the buck in. So the theory was that they're easier to harvest for food. You can skin a rabbit and parcel it up. Much easier than chicken. The challenge is to grow everything you need for a month, and it became very clear very quickly what you need is a network. You know, it's just too much work.
Finally, video pick number 5. Who needs figure skating or the hurdles? Who needs Athens or China? New York has the Hipster Olympics, and to compete at this level, you have to live on the edge of society.
Well, it's a beautiful day here in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I'm Greg Berman.
I'm Neil Tafoya. And the hipsters are out in full force today to see which one of their own will take the prize at this year's Hipster Olympics.
Brought to you by Pabst Blue Ribbon. When you aim for authenticity, aim for Pabst.
Contestants have been training year-round inside loft buildings and dive bars all over New York City.
And today is their big day.
Of course, no self-respecting hipster would ever enter this contest, let alone admit to being a hipster in the first place, so we're forced to assume that our contestants' participation is strictly ironic.
There's Nolan, got a nice head start to the ATM where he's got to verify whether or not his parents' check has cleared. And it has. And here's Larkin.
That's the coffee cup!
She's good to go. Sasha. And he's denied.
It's a good idea to leave at least 3 to 5 business days for that to process.
Next, Zach. Looks like he's having trouble with his card.
And he's gonna leave it! He is just gonna leave it!
That's why we're here today, folks, to see just that kind of split-second decision-making under pressure.
He's probably gonna want to call the 800 number and put a hold on that debit card, maybe sometime after the event.
These hipsters need to get the let out if they're gonna catch up with number 3, Nolan Shelby. He's already up ahead at our thrift shop t-shirt table.
At this event, each contestant can't advance before they found and presented an appropriately ironic t-shirt.
This event...
The Hipster Olympics from the Brooklyn comedy troupe Poikpak. And that's our online video picks for this week. Got some faves for next week? Email the link to brian@cuny.tv. Now let's dig a little deeper into some of those videos for the issues that they raise and check out some more along the way. From now until the New York primary on Super Duper Tuesday, February 5th, we will follow how the presidential campaign is playing out online in a new series called Election 2.0. How good do these candidates look in the new world of interactive democracy? And is the web good for electoral democracy, or do we just like to think it is? Let's check out some Election 2.0 metrics courtesy of the website Tech President. Who's got the most friends on Facebook? Barack Obama is in a class by himself in this category with more than 140,000 friends, ahead of Hillary Clinton and John Edwards by 100,000 Facebook friends. Now, maybe that's not so surprising, but check out the graph for the Republicans. Ron Paul is Mr. Popularity on Facebook, followed by Mitt Romney and Fred Thompson. And look at Rudy Giuliani way down in the lower right-hand corner in orange. Next category, most views on YouTube. This is unbelievable. It's Ron Paul in the deep purple up top there, leading all candidates with 4 million video views. Then Barack Obama second with 3 million views. And what exactly are people choosing to look at? Well, here is one of the top viewed Obama videos from last week.
It's a hands-on campaign, and it starts with us. It doesn't start in Washington. It doesn't start with one person. It starts with all of us.
I am taking an active role in trying to change this country.
It's about change. I see the direction that the country is going, and I believe it's wrong.
I think that there's that sense of wanting to be proud of being an American again, wanting to be proud of what our country is doing.
The Latino population, the blacks, the whites, the Asians, everybody, we can all do it. Si se puede.
This generation is just crying out for someone who wants to hear what they have to say. We feel like he's one of us.
So people want to see that Barack Obama video, apparently. And here is a top-viewed Ron Paul video from the last week. Remember, according to YouTube statistics, you did hear this right, Congressman Ron Paul leads all candidates in YouTube hits.
I want to say African Americans or black people or whatever you want to call yourself, people of color in this country, don't be afraid. We cannot vote for people based on the color of their skin. We cannot vote for people based on their gender. We have to look at the truth. This war on drugs is killing our children. It's killing our families. It's killing our communities. This war on guns is killing our children. It's killing our families. There are too many nonviolent of our men sitting in prison. There are too many black women without husbands because young black boys are struggling in school. We need the education system turned back over to the states, and we need to get rid of these federal crimes so we can build our families back and love each other and take care of each other. Don't be afraid. Take a stand. Believe in the truth.
That's a Ron Paul video. Let's watch some more Election 2.0 web video and put it in political context with the help of Professor Sandeep Junnarkar. He teaches interactive media at the Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. Among many other accomplishments, he helped the New York Times launch its website back in the 1.0 days. And veteran Democratic Party political consultant Hank Sheinkopf, who consulted the Bill Clinton for President campaign, among other things. Thanks to both of you for coming in. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm curious to get what you each make of the stats we saw from tech president Sandeep Obama and Ron Paul leading the world in YouTube views and Facebook friends. What does that mean?
Well, the interesting thing, when I saw that initially, you think back to American Idol with Sanjaya being in the running for a long time, even though he was not popular. And it turns out that there's a drive online to get him to stay on.
Ron Paul is the Sanjaya of politics?
That's the sense I
You mean
get.
you think it's a vote for the worst thing?
I think it's just to get him to the next level.
Like the hipsters? It's ironic video viewing?
I think so.
Do you think so?
No, I don't think so. Although maybe you could make that argument. What I think is going on is that people have the ability on the web to choose to view that which they want to view, when they want to view it, at the appropriate moment, when it most suits them. And there are people who are dedicated to particular people and particular causes, and will find them. There is no question that Barack Obama is superstar. I don't think he'll be the nominee, but he's a superstar, and he is attracting a younger population, a population that has been less the victim of the racism that has been an unfortunate staple of American politics. Ron Paul represents a particular viewpoint. People are on the web; they're finding him. It's not that there's no sign that says go find Ron Paul today.
Yeah.
They're finding him for that reason.
It's a sign of the passion of a relatively small group, but a group that's big enough to make those numbers pop in a thing like this. Yes?
And by the way, how do you audit those kinds of numbers? You can come back from another computer and hit it again, couldn't you? You could hit it again from your computer the next day, couldn't you?
You're the expert.
Well, you can do that, and there have been incidents like that with. I believe it was Mitt Romney, where there were some numbers on the number of views he had gotten. It turns out that the counter may have been gamed to some degree as well.
You see, but I could see it with the major candidates who have these big money infrastructures, Romney or Giuliani or one or two of the others. When it happens in support of a Ron Paul, that's why I think it must be spontaneous among some core group there. Maybe he's even getting Democrats because he's the most vociferous anti-war candidate, maybe of them all, and certainly in the Republican camp. Maybe that has something to do with it.
It does, and it has Web 2.0, social networking. When you link, you send links to your friends. You share these videos with your friends. You put them on your own blogs, and that's how he could be generating more views right now as well.
Yeah. By the way, what does it mean to be a Facebook friend of, say, Barack Obama? What does it mean? What do you get once you sign up?
You get to see what he's doing at a particular moment. You get to see who he knows. You get to ask a few questions, and you hope that they'll be answered. And you reach the same audience. You're interacting with another group of people that have similar interests as well.
Hank, big picture question.
Sure.
How confused do you think the candidate's relationship with the web is right now? Because we see metrics like this on the one hand, with Obama and Ron Paul breaking out. On the other hand, we look at the polls around the country. Hillary Clinton leads Obama, I think, in every state except his home state of Illinois. Sure. And obviously Ron Paul barely measures in the polls. And yet, candidates are announcing their candidacies online. They're putting a lot of resources into online advertising. They have staff members looking to post videos that they hope will go viral. So do they have a conflicted relationship with this whole world?
There is but no question that this is so youthful with respect to what American politics is or will be, that no one knows exactly what it means.
You don't mean it's young people using it. You mean it's just new.
It is. I mean it is both young people and it is new, and that this is probably my bet. The last cycle where television will be, paid media will be the ultimate arbiter of what occurs. Because of the web and because of the diffusion of different kinds of coverage, people in your business, Brian, people who cover news are now more important than they've been in quite some time.
More important?
More important.
But wait, the whole thing about Web 2.0 democracy is supposed to be that the ordinary public can circumvent the filters, people like me, and post their own comments and have their own conversations.
Surprise, they are also reporters, okay? They are also reporters in a world of reportage. And the fact that reporting matters more than paid media, because more people are able to participate, either will make over time a much more educated electorate or a much dumber electorate, depending upon how we define what fact is.
Well, and then depending on how good a job these reporters do.
Absolutely.
But this would be a revolution. I'm frankly shocked to hear Sheinkopf say it, that journalism and other reportage would become more important after this election than paid media, meaning candidates' TV commercials. I thought we've seen over decades TV commercials swamp actual news coverage. What do you see?
Now, I agree with Hank to some degree. Citizen journalism is growing, and now you can define that in different ways, but it's people reporting what they're seeing on a daily basis. Now, they can put those up as video, they can put those up as comments on different blogs, but it is a youthful movement. And going back a little bit to this being a watershed year, I don't think it is yet for the elections. I think people are, this reminds me of the 1990s where people were saying, well, we've got to go on the web, everyone's doing it. And there is some importance there, but they don't quite know what it is they want to accomplish. Are these numbers that were put up there, are they going to translate into actual votes? We don't know that yet. It didn't seem to work with Howard Dean.
You want to amplify your point?
Yeah, I want to amplify my point in the following context. Because the primaries in 2008 are stacked up so close, the web becomes more valuable as an information delivery mechanism. Paid media becomes to some extent less valuable, and what reporters do in the news cycle becomes more valuable because it is repeated constantly, plus the reportage that is going on the web changes the dynamic, and frankly, I didn't think so for a while, but I've changed my opinion. Potentially redemocratizes everything. The only issue is that people have to begin to take responsibility for what they post, and that is danger to democracy should they continue not to, for different reasons.
Guess what has resurfaced as a web video in the last few days? It's the old Harry and Louise ad taken out by the insurance industry to fight Hillary Clinton's health reform plan in 1994.
This was covered under our old plan.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it?
Things are changing, and not all for the better. The government may force us to pick from a few health care plans designed by government bureaucrats.
Having choices we don't like is no choice at all.
They choose.
We lose.
For reforms that protect what we have, call toll-free. Know the facts. If we let the government choose, we lose. Call today.
So, for those who don't remember 1994, when Hillary first proposed a health care reform, working for her husband, they got her on that issue of choice. Because her health care plan at that time would have actually taken people out of whatever their health insurance was and put them in these new regional groups that she wanted to create, correct?
Yeah, but you know what? Look, the first real professional political campaign, if I can just go back for a moment, occurred in 1948. It was done by two people named Whitaker and Baxter from California. And they were nice people, married couple, and the mandate was get rid of socialized medicine and make sure that Harry Truman's embarrassed. So they organized the pharmacists across the country at work. This is nothing more than doing the same thing on television.
So to your point about the web, when that paid media defined the conversation, now that this is up there again, And we don't know if people put it up ironically or historically, or if opponents of Hillary's health care plan that she announced this week want to get it out there again. Now anybody can post a response.
Absolutely. But what's also important to note in the discussion is that quarterly cumulative viewing of television is down, but web use is up. Okay? Access to computers is up. There's something going on. And those who would say that they have a definitive explanation for what the future holds because of it, frankly, should not be making those predictions. We don't know what the impacts on voting are going to be, and we don't know the impacts on democracy.
That's correct. Sandeep, when I think of healthcare and web video now, I think of Michael Moore, because he not only released the movie Sicko, he then started a thread of videos online where he invited people to respond to Sicko or in advance of Sicko, if they didn't see it, to post their health insurance horror stories.
That's right. And in fact, the insurance industry paid for that video. Michael Moore is a celebrity. You don't need those people anymore either. Just individuals with a simple video camera can put up their own ads, however they've been affected because of the health care they've received or not received. And they can post it themselves in support of Hillary or against Hillary. It's open now to these citizen journalists and people in general.
Now, we saw how Hillary Clinton's policies were attacked in 1994 on television. Here's a Rudy Giuliani ad attacking Hillary from the past few days, this is on the web, based on her statements about General Petraeus and the Iraq War during his testimony last week.
If left unchecked, Saddam Hussein will continue to increase his capacity to wage biological and chemical warfare and will keep trying to develop nuclear weapons. He has also given aid, comfort, and sanctuary to terrorists, including al-Qaeda members. So it is with conviction that I support this resolution as being in the best interests of our nation.
But now that she's running for president, Hillary Clinton has changed her position, even joining with the radical group MoveOn.org in attacking American General Petraeus. Clinton stood silently by when MoveOn.org ran this venomous ad in the New York Times. The same general she called an expert not long ago. Now she is questioning his honesty.
The reports that you provide to us really require the willing suspension of disbelief.
And just when our troops need all our support to finish the job, Hillary Clinton is turning her back on them. General Petraeus and the brave men and women now serving under him deserve an apology. And our nation deserves better. Senator Clinton, do the right thing. Apologize for your comments and condemn the MoveOn.org ad.
That Rudy Giuliani ad online. And Sandeep, you know, we showed the stat before, the chart that showed that Rudy was way, way down in terms of YouTube videos views. That's total over the last few months, but it's been going up over the last few days, largely because of this. It took him this long to really make a significant move on the web. I guess that's a political calculation on his part.
I think it may be fear as well. That's why he didn't move on the web right away.
Fear of what?
Well, fear of losing control. I think you're more of an expert on this particular subject, but Republicans, all their campaigning is usually top-down. I mean, they were excellent at grassroots campaigning with religious right groups and so forth. And even if you look at that, within the church, there were, you know, you're speaking to a group of people. It's somewhat one-way communication. When you're on the internet, it is somewhat the Wild West. It really is. And there's fear of losing that control.
But there's something else going on here, and I think you've hit some important points, Sanjay, but something else going on here. The web creates news because it's there. That's very important. You do something on the web, you're creating news. What's the news here and what's the political analysis? Rudy Giuliani has to prove to conservatives something besides the fact that he doesn't agree with them on anything they stand for. Because he doesn't. From their perspective, he's wrong on abortion, homosexual marriage, guns, immigrant job protection, or whatever you want to call it.
So it's that the Democrats are weak on terror.
He's now proving that he's the one who's going to be the slayer of the great dragon known as Hillary Clinton. That's what he's doing here. It is getting him legs among conservatives because he doesn't have much else to hold on to. It's a smart tactic. It's well done. It's windy, but it's well done for that medium. And you're going to watch, I think, Facebook and all the other indices within the web of viewership will suddenly start to increase. How long will this last? Not sure.
By the way, one of the points of that spot was to tie Hillary Clinton to MoveOn.org. As a Democratic strategist, what is the relationship of the Democratic Party to MoveOn.org? I'll bet a lot of people don't get it.
I bet a lot of Democrats wish they would disappear, okay, because they are far to the left than most Democratic positions.
But it's a big mobilizing force of people who are going to vote Democratic, big fundraising force.
And the fellows doing the work for him, Zimmerman and Markman, are very, very talented people. They're doing a great job, and they're to be respected. Just as an aside, the Louise and the Harry and Louise thing, terrific actress, married the guy that shot the spot, a guy named Ben Goddard, way back when. But that being said, this is
not the first time an actress married her director.
Well, that's true. But what's going on here is the attempt, and smartly so, to use we used to use spots to do it. Now use the web to make news, to force a different discussion that gets it away from that which bothers you, i.e., or creates problems. Rudy can't win the vote of those conservatives, but he can prove that he's the guy that has the courage to take on Hillary and beat her.
So what's the relationship ultimately between her campaign and MoveOn.org, especially if she wins the nomination? Does she get money from them, for example?
No, absolutely.
Where does all that money go that people get from MoveOn?
Independent expenditure.
Independent, that means media advertising for the most part.
Potentially, or whatever the strategists or people working for MoveOn.org will do. I won't be there, but their guys are going to do very well this year,
But
sure.
play this out for me one more step.
Sure.
Let's assume she gets the nomination, or whoever the Democratic nominee is, and maybe MoveOn is, you know, a little bit of an embarrassment to some swing voters if they're seen as too far left, whatever. But they're also out there as a force. Are they coordinating?
They cannot under the law.
They cannot under the law.
They cannot.
Otherwise, it's campaign spending.
Otherwise, Otherwise, it breaks the law. I would go you one better. MoveOn.org didn't initiate this practice. Go back to NICPAC and what they did. They went out and they beat the devil out of Democratic senators. It was the first real wave of modern independent expenditure in negative campaign advertising. The Republicans invented it, not the Dems.
NICPAC. Who is NIC?
I didn't know Nick, a National Conservative Political Action Committee.
Okay.
By the way, brilliant tactic, very smartly done, worked no different on one side than what MoveOn.org does on the other.
By the way, Rudy gets his share of online attack videos, too. Back to the Brave New Video Group for their take on Rudy's record of mistakes.
For 30 seconds, what is a defining mistake of your life and why?
To have a description of my mistakes in 30 seconds.
Open and notorious adultery.
He's been married 3 times.
An annulled marriage to a second cousin. He is estranged now from his own children.
His daughter backing Barack Obama.
If we're going to have a woman president, I think it should be a real woman.
There must be public funding for abortion.
I hate abortion.
He hurt the NYPD.
He knew there was a problem with those radios.
Didn't have a command post because he put it in the wrong place.
2 words, Bernie care.
Mismanaged the aftermath of the attack.
I was at ground zero, as often, if...
So again, that's independent video. It doesn't come from the Democratic Party officially. It doesn't even come from MoveOn.org. It comes from the filmmakers who did the movie Outfoxed about the Fox News Channel and some other things, which have set themselves up, on the web as Brave New Films, and they do these various attack ads against, and we've seen 2 tonight against Republican presidential hopefuls. The other was against Fred Thompson. Do they have an impact?
Well, Brian, looking at that ad, it could be a Republican organization attacking Giuliani. I mean,
by another candidate.
Yeah, by another candidate. But I want to shift the conversation just a little bit to something really important. And Hank mentioned it, that the use of the internet is growing. But it's very important to realize that a certain segment of the population is getting left out of the debate that's going on online, the people who are accessing the video. There was a study that just came out a couple of months ago by Pew Internet American Life, stating that people who earn less than $30,000 a year, only about 30% of those people have broadband. You need broadband to view these videos and to comment and so forth. People with a high school degree or less, that's just 21% of those people have internet access. So with this digital divide existing in schools, existing in the workplace for a lot of these people, and definitely at home, what's going to happen? Are we leaving out a certain segment of the population from partaking in these debates? Because what happens with the candidates providing websites, doing social networking, reaching out to niche audiences, they're willing to deal one-on-one with these people, answer questions, and now this particular segment is being left out of that conversation.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think that's really important in New York for our viewers, where there's such a divide between rich and poor. And Hank, you know, I had the Clinton strategist Mark Penn on my radio show this morning on WNYC, and
very smart guy.
And he mentions in his new book this dynamic that he sees, which is that upper income voters look more at the personality and the character of the potential candidate, whereas lower income voters tend to look more at their stands on the issues. Do you agree with that dynamic?
There are other studies that in fact prove the same thing. What it tells you is that people who are poor are smarter about voting patterns more often than not, and that's why they choose not to vote, because part of the continuation analysis is not voting is a decision. The choices are lousy.
So campaigns then have to pitch the personality to potential donors, people who have money, whereas they pitch the stands on the issues, what the candidate will do for you, to the lower income voters.
Correct.
But maybe that helps explain why people who are more active online tend to be more Obama-friendly than Clinton-friendly?
They tend to be more driven by personality attributes, and you know what? As people get younger, or we appear as I get older, they all just look younger to me because I'm getting older. But as they get younger, they're going to be less concerned about issue stands and more about what they feel about things. That is not so good.
Sandeep, before you go, we showed some of the numbers of some things that the website Tech President is tracking. I'm curious, what are you looking at? What haven't we talked about that you, as somebody who follows the web and follows politics on the web, are looking at as an interesting dynamic?
Well, as a journalism professor, I'm truly interested in what the role of a journalist is going to be in this setting where candidates are reaching out directly to voters, providing information, providing things as facts. What role can a journalist play in that particular role? Obviously, they'll continue to write articles about it, but should they wind up participating in these conversations that are going on in blogs? Should they validate information? Should they verify? Should they interview people who can provide greater perspective and link back? We didn't talk about linking very much, but on the web, linking is almost everything. You want to have links, you want to drive traffic, and in this case, going forward, what will be the role of journalists?
By the way, quick tangent, since you were there when the New York Times started their website, they announced this week that they are ending Time Select. That is, they're no longer going to make people pay to see the op-ed columnists, Maureen Dowd, Thomas Friedman, all those people, and other high-interest content. Is that a bellwether of something?
It's fantastic. A lot of traffic is driven to websites through Google and through links. If you can't link, you're not taking part of that conversation. And
every time you want to link to a Maureen Dowd column, the person would have to pay for it unless they're a Times subscriber.
Or they couldn't read it at all.
Right. All right.
That's right.
Sandeep Junnarkar, Hank Sheinkopf, thank you. Thank you very much. And coming up, New York from the ground up. Literally, wait and see. This is Brian Lehrer Live.
先生你好，歡迎光臨，等等先。唔該晒。
Brandon.
Hi, I'm Matthew Goldstein, the Chancellor of the City University of New York. Look who's teaching at CUNY. Michio Kaku, string field theorist and international authority on theoretical physics. John Corleano, Academy Award and Pulitzer Prize winner in music. David Nassau, winner, Bancroft Prize for Best Biography. Jill Barganetti, Presidential Early Career Award for Scientists and Engineers. Gregory Rabassa, recipient the National Medal of Arts in 2006 from President Bush. Elizabeth Nunez, winner, American Book Award. Godfrey Gums, American Physical Society Fellow and member, New York Academy of Sciences. World-class talent, award-winning scholars, CUNY is their classroom, CUNY is your university.
This is Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. Thanks for watching. Now we introduce another new series for this fall, New York from the Ground Up. Why give the power brokers all the airtime? In this series, we will broadcast local web video and talk to people in the names. Tonight, a Brooklynite named Manny Howard, who's trying to be the ultimate locavore. That is, he is trying to eat only the foods that he grows locally. In fact, in his backyard in Brooklyn. His New York Magazine video takes us there.
A farm essentially is, dirt, death, sex. That's what I've discovered. It takes a lot of work. My name is Manny Howard. I'm writing a story for New York Magazine about urban farming. I've converted the backyard of my Victorian mansion in Brooklyn into a farm over the last 6 months. And the plan is to survive off what I can grow and raise in the 40 by 20 lot, including the garage. So this is the barn. And these were the first great idea. We were gonna breed rabbits. That's the buck. And these are the two does. But the does won't let the buck in. So the theory was that they're easier to harvest for food. You can skin a rabbit and parcel it up. Much easier than chicken. The challenge is to grow everything you need for a month, and it became very clear very quickly what you need is a network. It's just too much work. It's constant work. The idea behind the urban farm is that we all are familiar with the term organic, and that we all want to eat healthier. There's an argument to be made that what we should be doing is eating locally. This is the pride and joy of the garden right now.
Looks like a Bam Bam's big stick.
He's at club, right? That's rosemary there. This is corn, eggplant. We got a bunch of these. This is celery, which was a big surprise. We thought it was the most aggressive parsley we'd ever seen. They followed me around for the first 3 days. They bonded to me like I was mom. So wherever I went, they followed me.
Dude, you were not going to be able to eat those ducks.
No.
They were too cute.
Yeah. Yay!
See, they get really freaked out when you push them.
These are the ones we managed to wrestle from the hen. And she's just started an egg-laying run. She's done 7 in 7 days, 3 of which we have. She eats the rest of them.
Are you worried about the killing at all?
Yeah. I like to think of myself as a sort of tough guy. I've done a fair amount of hunting, both birds and big game, but it's the sort of processing. If I wasn't so concerned about actually surviving the month, I'd pick it right now.
Do you feel fairly confident that you can eat? You have a month's worth of food back there.
No. But it's pretty good for a guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
Now, live, but thinner, in our studio, the Brooklyn locavore featured in that video, Manny Howard. Welcome.
Thank you.
You must be hungry. Here, let me give you some nice fresh fruit.
The first time I've seen grapes in a very long time.
Really? So nice video.
Thank you.
Were you doing this as a journalist or as a lifestyle?
Probably a combination of the two. a lot of the journalism that's been done about locavores is very arm's length. And it strikes me that locavores themselves tend to shop instead of do. And I thought, well, I'll take the journalists on and the locavores on and do instead of shop, or do instead of write. And
talk about the theory. Locavores, I know what it means. A lot of people don't know what it means. This is a philosophy of an approach to food.
That's right, yes. The locavore philosophy is that we should gather all our food from our food shed, and that's defined differently. Some people say 100 miles, some people say 30 miles. I think appropriate for New York City, 100 miles is probably the radius.
There goes bananas, there goes oranges, there goes lots of stuff.
Yeah. Apparently not kiwis. I talked to somebody during my...
There are New York kiwis?
Yeah, that you can grow kiwis within 100 miles of New York.
But there's even a debate with people who think it's most important to eat organic, right? Mm-hmm. Which is more important, organic or local?
Sure. It's all about the carbon footprint, you know. And people who argue that organic is the most important thing say that you bring food in by the truckload, by the trailer load, you're saving, your footprint ends up being smaller than if you're buying from a pig farmer who drives in from Putnam County every day.
Right. No matter how organic that banana from Argentina is, it's going to have a big carbon footprint by the time you eat it in Queens.
That's right.
Tell me about your experience. You started this in March with the goal of eating only local, your food, in the month of August, right? Is that right?
That's right. My food shed was 30 feet from my house, not 100 miles or 30 miles. And I started with high hopes. I had plans for a tilapia farm, knowing that tilapia have more in common with cockroaches than other fish in terms of adaptability. And I thought about a goat for cheese and milk for my coffee. I should say, actually, that there were 3 exemptions: salt, pepper, and coffee beans. Everything else came from
You couldn't live without coffee.
No.
Right, and that's probably the bugaboo of all the locavores. I can't live without my coffee.
That's right.
What was the hardest part for you?
I suppose the limitation was the hardest part. 18 different pieces of food, many of which failed, and then trying to craft a meal for a month.
You mean 18 different sort of crops or animals that you were trying to raise?
Right.
Like the rabbits, you were trying to raise the rabbits to eat, but it didn't work.
Right, and my rabbits didn't do what rabbits are famed to do best.
Really?
So I had to supplement them, or replace them rather, with chickens.
It must take a lot of talent to get rabbits not to do that.
Well, as a 40-year-old man standing in my underpants in the driveway watching rabbits not do what rabbits do, I started to take it personally after about 2 or 3 weeks.
What was your most successful crop?
The chickens, probably. After tomatoes, but tomatoes don't. Everybody grows tomatoes, so I didn't really.
No, chickens. I mean, I grew up in Queens, right? So I don't know about raising chickens. Do you get as many eggs out of them as you can for a period of time, and then you kill them for the meat?
Well, I grew 2 different kinds, and that had to do with the limitations of the one season. I grew meat birds and laying chickens, so they were very different.
They're different kinds, like beef cows and dairy cows.
Yeah, one was the meat birds you fed as much as you possibly could to get them up to the 4.5, 5 pound weight that was rang the bell for them, and the egg layers were a little more complicated. I had 1 star, but she fought for every egg because she had a taste of her egg, and that apparently is enough to drive a chicken wild. And
a taste of her egg?
Apparently, and this all came from book learning, because I grew up in Brooklyn and I don't know anything about chickens either. But if a chicken gets a taste of her own egg, then nothing else will do, and she'll fight you for every single egg. So
you just finished this month on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
A lot thinner. I'm proud of.
How much weight did you lose?
I lost 29 pounds.
And how many inches?
I actually haven't done that yet.
You haven't done that measurement yet?
I've got 2 belt loops. I don't know how many inches that is, but.
So you lost 29 pounds in 1 month by trying to grow your own food and eat only that from your backyard in Brooklyn.
You have to kill your own diet.
So what did you, the suicide diet, what did you prove?
But it's very difficult to sustain yourself. I must say one of the most rewarding things was linking work and food. If there was a takeaway from this, it was to spend a month never having set foot in a grocery store in New York, which itself is pretty remarkable considering
we outsource our
the other 40 years of my life.
So we can do it. So what do you do next?
I don't know. We're going to keep the laying birds. We get 5 eggs a day from them, and the kids love them. The ducks are going to go. Hopefully, there's a duck pond at Poly Prep, and I'm going to go talk to the folks over there and see if they'll take the ducks. Because my daughter negotiated, I can have as many chickens as I want, but I can't take the ducks.
And New York Magazine, people have you have articles there about this?
Yeah, that's right.
Through the month,
yeah,
you had a series.
I have one big cover story.
It's already been out.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It's online though.
Here.
Can you get that now?
One more group.
Thank you very much.
You're going to need every single one. Manny Howard, thanks for coming in. Good luck. Chickens and vegetables aren't the only way to remake our city from the ground up, however. How about this transformation of a parking lot in Dumbo? Hello, Dumbo. This from the website streetfilms.org.
It's another place here. I really love it. I think it's really cute over here. It's charming.
This is actually the first time I've ever seen something like this. And even just to be a part of it, I like it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would probably like it in their neighborhood.
It's great for us, great for the neighborhood, great for everybody.
I want to welcome you to New York City's newest public space. A short time ago, this was a barren parking lot filled with cars and debris, and now you can see that it's literally a living room for the neighborhood. And this living room took weeks, not years, to put together. And I think it lays the groundwork for an even more impressive foundation that we will create in the years to come.
We originally brought down a group of Pratt students from their graduate planning school to help us look at underutilized spaces in the neighborhood. This space immediately screamed out to them and had to us for quite a while. They developed some plans for a plaza, like what you see here. As soon as people in the neighborhood heard about this idea, local architecture firms stopped by and they're like, oh, I have an idea about this, or I have an idea about that, really advising us on creation of an active urban space like this. So we were able to just very quickly, with a minimal amount of resources, investment from my board of directors, matched by investment from the Department of Transportation, great public-private partnership, we're able to create this space that you see here.
Well, it's a real success story of what you can do when you partner and collaborate with communities. Over the course of basically 2 months, we've transformed it into the pedestrian plaza that you see here today, working with local artists who have installed spectacular art, working with the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens that gave us the planters and the trees that you see behind us here, and working with local businesses and artists who've donated the umbrellas and the tables and chairs and are going to make sure that they are maintained. And this really is just an example of what you can do with a little imagination and energy.
Turning parking lots into art and backyards into farms are two small ways to have an environmental impact in the city. But to really fight global warming, the big players have to make dramatic changes. Enter the MTA. This week, our Transportation Authority announced it is drawing up a map that routes them on the express train to sustainability, they say. The MTA plans to reduce its footprint of CO2, water, waste, consumption of materials, and much more. With us now, Ernest Tollerson, Director for Policy and Media Relations for the MTA. Ernest is, by the way, a longtime advocate of congestion pricing. Ernest, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You know, the funny thing is, when I first saw this, my first thought was, if the MTA really wants to have an impact on the environment, the best thing they can do is expand. Build more train lines, build more bus routes, so that people get out of their cars more.
And you're right, and we're doing that. You know, we're going to have the first segment of the 2nd Avenue subway, the extension of the number 7 line. So clearly expanding our services throughout the 5,000 square mile territory is part of being sustainable and helping to get people out of their cars and get them to use rapid transit. But that wouldn't be enough because, you know, we need to be wholly sustainable, and that's going to take years and years. But we have a responsibility to look at our output of CO2 and to look at the way we use water and see what we can do to bring it down.
So how do you go about assessing, it must be a huge job, the environmental footprint of the MTA with all its trains and buses. And remember, that doesn't just mean even the New York City buses and the subways, but also all the commuter rails, Long Island and
Long Island
Metro
bus,
North.
absolutely. Well, it's a huge task, and that's one reason why we have this great commission, which had its first meeting today. And they've asked for all of the baseline information on all the things you just ticked off. You know, the carbon dioxide footprint, which we have some sort of rough approximation of, and we're going to refine the data we have on that. And we have some ideas about some of the other things, but there's a lot of data we've got to gather to get a comprehensive picture of the entire footprint.
If I were to ask you out of the blue right now, what is the one thing that the MTA does that pollutes the most, what would it be? Any idea?
No, because I think we actually want to actually study that question and figure it out and be sure we have the right answer and not be
some of the things
guess.
that you've mentioned this week that you're going to look at: cleaner fuel buses added to the fleet, energy efficiency projects, recycling, the purchase of wind power, the use of light-duty alternative vehicles for some non-revenue service, and a growing number of green facilities, including the Gun Hill Bus Depot and Corona Yard. How do you make a green bus yard?
A lot of different ways. You know, we have one bus depot that probably opens sometime either before or after Thanksgiving that will harvest rainwater and use it to clean buses. And that's going on right now at the Corona Yard for subways, taking the rainwater and using it to clean subway cars. So there are a lot of ways. You can put a green roof potentially on a bus depot. And, you know, we have lots of facilities, lots of buildings, and there's lots of ways to take those buildings and really turn them into high-performance buildings. And a high-performance building has lots of systems. It's the way you heat it. It's the way you light it. There are a lot of things to look at.
How quickly is the bus fleet being transformed to the lower polluting buses? I mean, there's nothing worse than being stuck either as a pedestrian or a driver behind one of the old diesel buses belching black smoke.
Sure,
but
and as
that
we
fleet is being turned over.
Absolutely, and as we get new orders for buses, we're buying cleaner and cleaner buses all the time. As you know, we have a fair number of hybrid buses in the fleet in the city, and we're using ultra-low diesel, sulfur diesel in a lot of buses. So as we make new purchases, buses get cleaner.
What's the technology actually on those buses? The state-of-the-art fuel for an urban
Well, I
bus?
guess you know, we have sort of three things that are state-of-the-art given where things are now. We have hybrid electric buses, and we have buses with ultra-low sulfur diesel, and we have some CNG buses. And remember that some of these CNG, compressed natural gas buses. Remember, some of these technologies that we're using now may not be around in, say, 20 or 30 years. In 20, 30 years, we may have actually settled on the way of powering buses that turns out to be the best possible way to have a bus fleet.
Right, and of course, asthma is such an issue in the city, and
Absolutely.
this hopefully will reduce the asthma rate.
I think to some degree it's a big step toward doing that. But also, as you know, there are other sources for asthma besides the outdoor sources. So it's a combination.
I mentioned that you're an advocate of congestion pricing. Is this a chance for the MTA to have a wider impact on the mayor's larger smart growth strategy for the vision that he has for the year 2030?
Well, you know, I think the MTA is interested in pursuing innovative strategies that will help make our region sustainable. And I think that the regions that are going to prosper in this century are competing against other regions that have already made the decision that they want to be sustainable.
Will these changes cost or save money?
I think these changes will both make us greener and save money. I think it's possible to pick sustainability projects that both save money, make things more efficient, and make things greener.
You having a background of advocating for environmental causes. You and I go back to when you were
a long time, yeah.
editorials editor for Newsday.
Sure, New York Newsday, yeah.
New York Newsday, when that paper existed as a separate entity. And you've written in favor of environmental policies for a long time. Do you almost see yourself as an environmental mole within the MTA?
No, because in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, the 66,000 employees at the MTA are already sort of focused on greening the MTA. We've done a lot of projects, bus depots and other facilities, and what the commission is going to do is sort of say, what are the kind of overall long-term goals that will really sort of get us to where we want to be? But I don't have to be a mole because there's so many people within the MTA who are already committed to being green and sustainable.
Someone told me that there was recently a big dump of retired subway cars, I guess in the ocean, off
As a reef.
Off New Jersey, and that it created a reef.
Yes. Yes.
Explain that.
Well, you know, you actually want to be creative every time you decide that something's reached the end of its useful life. You don't want to sort of dispose of it in a way that's not environmentally sound. And so as we think about all the things that the MTA uses and needs to get rid of because they're beyond the useful life, we want to find a way to dispose of them that makes environmental sense.
So off the Jersey shore, there is a reef of subway cars. What does a reef mean in that respect? Because we think of a reef as maybe a coral reef or something natural.
Right, but we know that we need
the
reefs
old,
to sort of
A-train.
Right, reefs to help continue the life in that part of the ocean and whatever is attracted to a reef in that part of the ocean. So it's a good thing.
With all the oils and heavy metals and everything else that's in those
Well,
cars.
no, you wouldn't put it into the ocean before you were sure that it was sort of clean and all those things that are toxic have already been removed.
We just have a minute left. You mentioned that the MTA Sustainability Commission, which was just set up, had its first official meeting today.
Yes.
What's the headline?
The headline is that we've gathered a great group of people. They're sketching out a terrific agenda and piece of work. Some of that work, I think, we'll see by Earth Day next year, and some other pieces of work will probably come out beyond that. And it's chaired, by the way, by Jonathan F.P. Rose, who is a green planner and developer and very much a systems thinker who doesn't want to sort of separate greening mobility from greening the way you live, from greening where you work. It's all got to be part of one comprehensive system.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming in. And that's it for tonight's show. We are here live Wednesday nights at 7:30. You can also sign up for our free podcast at CUNY.TV. Next week, more Election 2.0 and more New York from the ground up. And please tune in to my daily radio show, The Brian Lehrer Show, weekday mornings at 10 on WNYC. Tomorrow morning, New York real estate blogger Bob Guskind on the subprime meltdown, Brooklyn style. That's at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning on 93.9 FM and AM 820 WNYC. Have a great night.